Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever, I guess you could say, Tellor reporters call. We're going to try and do these on a bi-weekly basis. We're just going to be recording them and talking about some of the issues that reporters are facing, some of the things that you guys might want to bring up. And yeah, if you wanted to hop on, we can literally walk you through setting it up. I know Owen we already posted a video on that. But if it didn't actually work for you guys or you have other issues, we're happy to do it again. I guess we can kind of talk like hot topics in the reporter sphere today. So as far as stats go, we're up to, I think as of yesterday, 73 staked reporters, which is an awesome number. Definitely gone up, I think threefold since we launched Tellor X. So we have 3 times as many people staked with Tellor X, and you can tell even in our Discord, life is back in the reporters channel. It's people are coming in, they're starting to try it out and run some software. So that's super exciting. But as far as like what are the issues currently that we're dealing with? So as a lot of you know, people come on and they try and run it, and then sometimes they just never submit. Or when they do submit, they lose money. That seems to be okay. What can we do about it? I don't know. Does anyone, maybe like Mike Babs, Tally, or Owen, do you guys want to explain why are they never submitting? And this is like the frequently asked question, I guess, of the reporters channel. Why are they losing money, or why do they never submit?
Well, I would just say that at a high level, I think that we want to try to keep it safe for people. So we have some profit calculations that are generally, maybe even would call that aggressively safe. So if you use sort of the default command line options or suggested command line options, it might, the default profit that it's looking for may never be achievable. So I think that's one of the reasons why people's reporters might never submit. So that's something that we're working on, improving, trying to get the profitability calculations a little bit more accurate. Do a little bit better reporting as you're running the software to see what's going on. And I just encourage people, if they are having issues, just to always report the command line that you use to run the reporter. That can give us a little bit better idea how to help to know what you're shooting for, and help us find problems a little more.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess Spuddy, if you had anything to sort of add. So Spuddy's kind of he's the person who is an active miner or an active reporter on the Tellor team. We've all submitted on the Tellor team, but Spuddy's really our liaison as far as he does this for a living. How are things going? What would you say are kind of current issues on the network?
I don't use the profitability flag.
Okay.
I look at the, I look at Etherscan. I look at the Oracle contract, and then I look at the gas price. And after submitting a few times, you get an idea for how much it's going to cost. And whenever I try to submit in profit, there's some front running happening.
Okay.
Someone else on the network is putting in a transaction at the same time, paying a little bit more gas, and theirs goes in first. Doesn't happen every single time, but most of the time.
Super cool. Yeah, so those are obviously, I think we're working on some fixes for it, right? I think we're working on submitting via Flashbots, which is going to really solve some of those front running issues. And then kind of like Mike Babs was talking about, getting those profitability calculations sort of automated, so you're not sitting there manually trying to do it. But yeah,
there's the other issue, of course, where people are submitting late for a different query than was just received. So that can be a big loss. So we're working on a fix for that to try to synchronize all the reporters, so that if you do wind up submitting, you'll have a much higher probability of getting a failed transaction, which will cost quite a bit less than a successful late transaction.
Sure. Yeah, I also wrote, there's a sample fail contract, it's called. the issue that Mike Babs is talking about. So right now, like if let's say we're both mining on ID number one, if Spuddy and I both submit at the same time, his is going to go through and mine's going to fail because we were both submitting for ID one. Because the network sort of realizes that, okay, I didn't want to submit for that. But the next one though, if he was submitting for ID one and I was submitting for ID 10, and we both submit at the same time, if his goes through first, he gets all of the time-based reward and mine still passes, mine still goes through, but I don't get any of the reward because he just took it all. So now I lose money because the gas isn't, I just blew a bunch of money on the gas and didn't get any reward. So we're working on a way to sync those up and make it so it doesn't happen. I did write a sample fail contract. So like, if you want to prevent that happen, one way to do it would be to just deploy a new smart contract interface, and it checks whether or not any ID. So it checks the time-based reward in a smart contract and then sort of passes it over. And that's one solution that you guys can use. Or you could just wait. I think then the next release of PyTelliot here should help alleviate those, maybe not prevent them completely, but in most cases help alleviate that. So anything else on current minor issues?
Yeah.
Oh, we did it.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, please.
I was thinking be good to discuss like the realistic expectation for like the frequency of winning a reward. I think considering the current state of the system, most rewards are the time-based reward that's baked into the protocol, at least through contract funding. I think considering what there's like 80 reporters and you can report every 12 hours, like I wouldn't say it's like, I would say the expectation, if you came into the expectation as a reporter of like, I'm going to win some TRB twice a day or something like that. Like I would even say that is like rash and hopeful. I'd say like, I'm a reporter, like many on the team are reporters as well, and many community members further. So I'd say like, from that perspective, like it's good to be realistic about like the state of like where TRB is moving in the system. Yep. And sort of like keep an eye on that in terms of like your expectations about how frequently you might win rewards. If we were winning rewards every half hour or something like that, we'd be millionaires. So be patient.
Yeah, I think Tally pointed out this is a competitive thing. So this is not a sort of a staking protocol where everybody wins as we put money in. It's a competition and people are fighting for it. So if you come in, like you're going to probably want to learn the Tellor system a little bit and know the game that's being played and how to get those rewards.
If you're someone watching who is new to Tellor, it's good to always stay up to date and know how to report, because things happen. Like APIs go crazy. Reporters could get disputed sometime, and then if you're paying attention and you know how to report, there might be a window to submit something and make a profit. And just because it's not there all the time, that doesn't mean it's never going to happen.
Are you talking about manual reporting or just in general?
Just in general as well.
In general.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is knowing where Tellor's going. So the next network we're going to be deploying on is Polygon, and then we're looking to deploy an Algorand, and then we're looking to deploy in every chain out there. So there's going to be opportunities to take your TRB, go put it over on that network, stake, and become a reporter. And similar to TellorX, I mean, probably the first whole week, the rewards were really good for everyone because you were the first person over there. So I think it's going to be similar to going over to these other networks. There's going to be some good rewards over on these other networks. And also we're working on setting up different payment structures. So right now, a lot of people, you would either just go through the time-based rewards. That's the main way that reporters are getting paid, or there's tips. On Polygon, we're talking to people who they just want to get to know some reporters, and then they would enter into like, say, a service agreement to where you guys would be the reporters for this contract. You would be required to keep the ETH US dollar price updated, say, every hour, and then you get streamed money every time you do that, and then that would be how a payment contract would work. Or it could look something like, okay, whoever is the first person, if you wanted to think about a way to like redo the ample payment contract, we've talked about this, you could put money into a smart contract and say, whoever is the first person to update at 7:30 p.m. every night gets the reward. that's a different game that's being played now. And it might be more advantageous to you if you're paying attention, and especially if you're the first person to see this game get set up. So just kind of know that there's a lot of these sort of opportunities coming about, and staying plugged in is going to be really helpful.
Even before Tellorx with Tellor mining,
Yep.
you know, there was always changes coming. And if you're paying attention and you're up to date on how to report when the changes happen, then you have an advantage over people who are not ready to do that stuff yet.
Yeah. So, okay. The only question we sort of had was from Crossy on the dispute. So this has been an issue with Tellor all along. We come into it as far as, okay, what values can be disputed and what values should be disputed. You know, like if you think about an ETH US dollar feed, let's say ETH US dollar is, let's say it's $4,000. What value can be disputed? If somebody in Tellor posts it's 3,900, is that a disputable value? Maybe. If somebody posts it's 3,000, probably. But what number can you say? Is it a 5% difference? Is it a 10% difference? Do we hard code it into the ID? All could be potential answers. And we honestly don't have a good solution for this. It's really just sort of arbitrary. You know, like we had gotten into this discussion a little bit with Ampleforth, like they wanted it to be within like 1% of their value. Well, if you're 1% off, like sometimes just the way that the exchanges work and the way that the timing works on the data, you're going to be 1% off. You're going to be 2-3% off, and that's fine. If you're 10-20% off, that's a bigger issue. I'd say ultimately it's going to have to stay arbitrary, and we're going to want to just make sure that whenever users define what these IDs are, so, you know, and like whether it's the data queries or the Tellor feed example repos where we're specifying how to make these, we need to document, this is what a good value is, this is what a bad value is, these are some of the thresholds. And you can also do something with consistency. So like if you would assume somebody would want to game our system like with Ample, you could place a 1% value you could potentially make some money if you were doing 2% under every single night. There would probably be, if you could pull the median down every single night and make sure that it was lower and you could constantly bet against it, you could make some money. So I mean, there's even something to say as far as like, maybe you could dispute it, like maybe if it happens once, that's cool with the disputer, but if it happens 3 or 4 times, like, hey man, what are you doing? Go fix your software. It's doing something wrong. And these are just issues that we need to work on and talk about as a community, because we're really just all in this together as far as we don't want to dispute reporters who are trying to do it honestly, but we want to dispute reporters who are not doing it honestly. So how you identify that in a way that's not subjective is really, really hard. So if you guys have thoughts, we'd love them.
Yeah, I think it would be useful if any like potential users are listening or would be listening. I would say like, I think it would be uncomfortable for us, like as makers of this market, to like declare for every query ID like that in other words to say like, if we were to say for every query ID like this is worthy of dispute, like it would be unreasonable and like incompatible with like a good degree of their query IDs. I think like moving forward it'd be useful for users who request certain kinds of data to like, it's useful to know what the data should be and also what the data shouldn't be. And in order to be more specific about what the data shouldn't be, it's useful for, I think, more for them than for us to like specify or to define what is worthy of dispute for the sake of like what can best meet their data. Maybe others agree or disagree, but that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can do it with some user data. So like, whether it's, you know, like a specific smart contract, like, you know, the Morphware one we're working on, or even Ample, which is relatively specific, but like, you know, if it's something broad, like the ETH US dollar feed, where you could potentially have multiple contracts reading the same value, it can get hairy there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a good place where we'd want to be more authoritative.
I think that's one of the things where like with Tellor Flex, that's gonna be useful, that each user can actually create their own governance.
Well, that not necessarily each user, each chain.
Or each team.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could have it to where like, maybe we would want to tell users like, you have these broad-based ones of ETH US dollar, or if you wanted to make it a specific dispute threshold, you could say like, the query ID could be like ETH US dollar for my project. With, like, and it mimics ETH US dollar, but like we're okay foregoing those gas savings by being able to piggyback on somebody else updating it and just update it on our own with our own rules. So I think maybe you could do something like that, but
I think communication is important for Tellor, like as a reporter and someone who is thinking about disputing a reporter, if you come to the community and like, hey, I see this happening, I think I'm going to dispute it. It might be a good idea to like talk it out first, because
well, sometimes you get it, but they want it to be a race and you're going to get the
right, like
stake.
it is a contest, yeah,
Yeah.
or after the fact communication could be important, like, hey, I disputed this value, and
Yes.
I'm not really sure if I should have.
Yeah, because we have an
it.
invalid option that we can vote on. So, letting us know why you disputed it and things like that. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean, you can come and talk to the community and make a case. There's 48 hours to do this, so it's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Mhm.
usually, if a value is really, really obviously wrong, then we want that to be removed.
Yes.
Every time.
But we just want to talk about it. A lot of times it can help too. I think just we need to make better monitoring tools as far as like, is our data, is our ETH US dollar price consistently 1% under, what Chainlink's putting up on chain? If it is, maybe we should look at like, are we calculating out correctly, and just sort of check ourselves on that. So cool. Okay, so I think that was good.
There
sorry.
was a question, I don't know if you already covered this, but on the reporter side, somebody commented on the pending transactions. And then you commented on the sample reporter bill
Yep.
contract. So maybe you want to talk about that and how.
I think we did.
how we did?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Brenda's not listening. But if you guys want, any of the PyTelly guys, do you guys want to go over the current roadmap and what you see as kind of the next pieces of that?
Sure. Just briefly, for Telly feed examples, which has like the command line interface for interacting with like the actual interval reporter, which is what we are providing to people to report with. There's just been a few bug fixes, some added command options, like for setting the gas limit and stuff that will be in the next release. And then also flashbots. So yeah, I mean, we don't want to like guarantee like, oh, everything's fixed now if it uses flashbots, because there can be unforeseen things that come up when we start using it. So yeah. And then another thing to note too is if you're running it out of the box, it doesn't have a profitability check. So if you just run it out of the box, you will lose money probably.
Should we add that in as a default, do you think? Maybe like,
Yeah, we can.
yeah, I would
Just
say
like a
maybe make it so
ridiculous-
like you can't, like you have to manually turn it off if you're doing that, because I feel like most people, if you are manually turning it off, you should know what you're doing. It's like a
make the flag dash
yeah.
Well, the default profit could be just zero, so that it at least would try to break even.
Yeah.
Right?
dash yo. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, you guys gonna do a dash YOLO for that one? We can have a sense of humor, guys. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one thing I'd like
Dash
to.
ramen.
One thing we want to do is get up the robustness, I guess. So if you ever do have any, cases where it, crashes. So if you look in your user folder in your home directory under Telliot, you should have some log files under there. So to really, when you interact with the blockchain, you can have lots of error conditions, and we can't necessarily test or know every single thing that could possibly happen when connecting to all these APIs and chains. So that's helpful when you send a report. If you can send along a log file, that'll give us a better idea of how to add these, continuously improve or increase the number of errors that we're capturing and handling in the proper way, so that you don't have to deal with them.
Cool. And Brenda knows when you're going to support her Mac.
Oh, next release. Yeah, M1 processor release.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that was a great first reporter's call. Anybody else have anything we can?
Yeah. My last thought is like, well, we can't like force that. We can't force fairness in the system, but like what we're at least trying to make fair is that the software is like competitive, relatively speaking. So like with things like if Vitality is like failing to be like properly competitive, this is something that we're trying to like really keep our eye on. And it's such a subjectively defined like idea to say like it's to say that it might be not like top of the line competitive, but like this is something that we really want to work on. And on the other hand, like on the community side, it requires a lot of like input from community members and sort of how it works out for them and what they feel like would the sort of ways where the software fails to compete like in general and make the market fair. Yeah, I think I said that in a roundabout way, but yeah.
And this is all new ground.
Yeah.
This is all new territory that, there's no
For
other
sure.
project. There's no other project with a system like this that we can borrow ideas from. All the ideas are new.
Well, I mean, I was thinking one thing we could do is like structure, like if we do start doing rewards over on Polygon or something, and you want like a tipping system, you could have like, so there are like some proof of personhood protocols, or like, you have to come to our Discord and you get like an NFT if you post a message as a person. And then like, in order to be eligible for the rewards, you have to have that NFT. And then it could, you could almost add like a de-anonymize it in some ways, but then you sort of limit it from, because part of the problem with these competition profit-based systems is that they slowly monopolize. So, like one person who's going to get really, really good at using MEV, and they also mine Ethereum blocks, and they're going to mine every single Tellor block. Yes, the Tellor system actually still works just fine as is, as long as you have people verifying it. But you don't, like you want to try and fight it. You want to spread the wealth, making sure that, how do you incentivize people to check it? Probably the best way is to give them some rewards from it and have them also be paying it. So we're going to be experimenting with some of those ideas. And if you guys have other good ideas too, happy to try them out on all these different chains. So, but thanks, Tally.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone. We'll post this up on YouTube and call it a day. So, see you.